Okay, here we go. So last time we talked about preparing a plan for launching the SaaS, and yeah, of course we identified our immediate focus will be a soft launch, but we also, to get that right, we said we need to have clarity into what would be requirements and activities around like a full-blown launch and what would come after that. And so I've made a board on Whimsical with some ideas structured along those three kind of phases. Of course, as we kind of move left to right, there's maybe a bit less clarity, but to some extent, they're of course also flexible, but yeah, we'll see. I think we can just dive in. So in terms of the phase one, we are kind of thinking what is a must-have for the basically website to be open to anyone signing up for Operately Cloud. Just so I can. So I started with the website. Basically, that's the kind of the front face, the public facing place. Some of these things are very small, not even worth discussing very much. I just think there is space for a bit of an update in copy. No big deal, but just to maybe sharpen the language that fully echoes the expectations of the people that we are building this for. I added a note here, like a minimal social proof. As we only have basically one customer, which is Semaphore, and so we cannot like say have one testimonial from somebody at one company and then another company and another company. But I was thinking about, social proof is like, well, it's a standard, it's a, of course, if you can have it, you should have it. And like testimonials in general, they can say things in a way that you typically do not say in the presentation on the website. So it crossed my mind, this is optional, that we might actually put like 2 testimonials from people working in different departments, basically from Semaphore, but just like have them express how they benefit from Operately. And then later we replace that, but have something. We must provide an answer to what is our pricing, which we will not launch at that point, but I think it will be useful for analytics and to understand the flow, to have that as a separate page, as short as our message about pricing will be. We want to allow, enable people to talk to us, so we need to set up the infrastructure for that so people can self-book. This is a micro detail. These will be 2 pages, one about why is Operately open source and what it means to you as a user. And another would be like what we don't technically have like a traditional roadmap, but like a view on the horizon of what's coming. These are technically these are not must-haves. Like, of course, we could launch the soft launch the SaaS without them, but I would personally like to try to create content for these pages, because the open source page is, in my opinion, relevant for whoever does come across our website. And they kind of actually look around and explore. They are definitely the enthusiastic early adopter kind of a person, and I would love them to be aware of like our philosophy and why we're building Operately as an open source product for winning hearts, basically. And the let's say the roadmap page, or whatever we call it, but we should probably call it roadmap because that's what people would expect and recognize. I see value in just like letting people know what's coming soon. What are the next big things? Maybe you come across Operately, but you're like, this looks very interesting, but maybe not yet. So I'm curious when are they going to build XYZ, and then we can answer that on this page. I don't see it as a big effort to create that. It can be very simple. It doesn't have to be like an actual map of like the issues and that we have on GitHub. It can be handwritten, the key kind of things that are being worked on and are coming after. Okay, on the
maybe on the website front.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with everything, but I don't see an answer to the core question of, if you are a visitor, what is your flow to get into the application? Or that should be a core thing that we answer in this phase, probably.
Yeah, well, I did not put that in a writing here, probably because in my mind it kind of maps to changing the main call to action button. Like, instead of join the waitlist, we would have sign up for whatever, sign up, which would lead you to the app. I don't see any additional layers needed.
Probably the core reason why I'm asking this is, at some point we discussed that it might be beneficial to offer a, book a call, and then once we know each other, we would let you in the application. Of course, at some point we decided that it kind of doesn't make sense with an open source platform to behave very restrictively. But at the same time, we never really took a hard stance. Will it be directly into the application, or will it be only through a booking that you can access the application?
Yeah, this is the I mean, we can talk about that. For to me, this is I did not go that deep into this. To me, this is like when we get to the whole thing about letting people book a call with us, then we can decide. There is again there are a couple of options. One is to basically just have only have it within the public website. The other options are to bake it in the help menu in the application, to include that in the welcome email, on the welcome screen after creating an account. There's the topic of allowing people to create a demo organization so that they can explore inside once they're in the app. Those two things are very, very related. So, but technically, it will always, people are always going to land on some kind of a calendar booking page that is managed with a third party. So fundamentally, like, important decisions, but in the implementation, it's trivial.
I mean, on the website part, yes, but the product also needs to be adjusted to have a sign-up flow and so on. So we should definitely put it out because it won't be such a, it's not a 1 hour thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a couple of days of work.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I mean, it's something to spec out and fully understand. What I found helpful, the way I actually worked on this, is I did not go like top down across categories. I actually went like, okay, website, and then I would move.
Yeah.
It's easier to understand like maybe the trade-offs and choices. So, okay, what are the things that I put for after the soft launch, but before like a full launch? Full launch would, just for clarity, full launch will include like taking shots at like show Hacker News, Product Hunt, spending some money on like ads, like on X or some newsletters and things like that. So, right. So definitely, a quick overview video. Pricing model. And I would, this alone would be like a project in itself to expand the current. So currently we have one features page, which kind of just goes through, kind of enumerates the features by name almost, but not almost, but it goes like that. And the idea here is to basically just create additional pages that are focused on different use cases. So tell the story of how certain things work together and how it can be done through the language of like problem solving particular problems, very specific problems for very specific people. there's that. Yeah, status page. I don't know, maybe not, but we'll see. Third phase would include, well, by then we will have some actual users who might be happy to give us a public testimonial. Again, here, let's say the angle would be, okay, what project management or goal setting problems, how does Operately address them and help you? This is, here the idea is to, again, like from another, like yet another angle, which is from a certain job function or department, like tell the story of like, okay, here are 5 important things in running that, executing that function or running the department that Operately can help you with. All of these are, there is definitely some overlap between these pages, but they are meant for, they're meant to help people understand like how actually these like basically general purpose tools built into Operately actually solve problems. So people can identify, maybe somebody is looking for, you know, to solve like goal tracking at their company, but somebody else is like, okay, what in a customer success department, how exactly is, you know, does Operately, what exactly does Operately offer? There are also benefits for just in terms of, you know, positioning on Google and, you know, feeding the AI engines. Comparison pages have almost nowadays become like a staple. Like they both target, it's both like a targeting a keyword, because people might be searching like alternative to X, and it's helpful for people who are actually using X to understand. I mean,
maybe jumping back to the use cases.
Yeah.
I mean, just to confirm that I don't see any problem with repeating, you know, maybe even 50% from different angles.
Yeah.
But you're telling a different story. One is how to apply goals company-wide, and the second is, you know, supporting. Here are, you know, tools and practices that help you make it work and make it great.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, after, maybe it's obvious, but I don't, at this point, like I don't see like all of these are like one project to be done at a single time period. A lot of these are, you know, it will just continuously, there'll be a continuous role of small projects basically to continuously expand the website. At some point we will realize that, you know, it's time for video tutorials, probably when the product stabilizes, in the sense of like we're still experimenting a lot in the how certain screens work and how to solve some UX challenges. So yeah, I don't know when, but the time will come when we will want to have video tutorials for, well, for basically what is being explained in different use cases.
Maybe one question. Do these video tutorials map to, let's say, a guided tour of Operatorly? Or is it something else? Because in my mind, that was part of the documentation.
Mm.
But are you meaning that, or is it something else?
Yeah, that's a good question. There is potentially two types. We will see, I think, when we get there. Sorry. So on the documentation side, you want very specific, like how-to videos. And here it's more like use case focused overview videos. But I think if I think about video creation, I would probably start with how-tos, because they're impossible to get wrong. Like you first need to create the kind of very straightforward, like, okay, how do I create a goal? How do I adjust whatever? And then once you have those, you sort of gain you get a foundation for potentially more. But it might also be the case that these are not needed, or in fewer number than the how-to videos. So
I mean, the biggest difference between a how-to video, or this actually, the how-to videos map in my head to, let's say, a guided tour, or a, Operatorly Academy, or however you want to call it. Basically teach you how to use the tool. But the use cases are more mapped to this other box in the top right, which is, can you scroll a bit up? I can read it. So yeah, the use cases of videos are actually kind of connected to use cases in the application. So we can potentially, one aspect is, okay, you have written how a support team can benefit from using Operatorly, but we can also convert it into a video format to.
Yes, so one way to use case page video.
My main point was that probably they are not so connected with the documentation, that the only connecting part with the documentation is they are both videos and showing the application.
They're the same medium, but they're a different type, yeah. But the ideal state is if you have a new use case page, eventually or soon or immediately, there is a corresponding video. And also if there is a guided, not just a guided tour, but a sufficiently important documentation page. So this would include most pages except like maybe those explaining the difference between privacy levels or something. But even in that case, yeah, basically a page and a video. There's always a video associated with a page because, yeah. Different kinds of people prefer different mediums. And also, these are different platforms, each with their own audience and traffic. So yeah, we kind of started scratching the surface on the documentation. So maybe we proceed there. Currently, the documentation does not exist. So my kind of proposal for the first phase, like for the soft launch, is to set aside a fixed time period, let's say a week, and just be like, okay, what can be done in that week? With the focus on, of course, covering the initial experience, core concepts, whatever you would explain to somebody on the intro call, and then gradually start basically the process of continuously building the resource into covering the whole product until it's at the stage of like full launch. It would not be a serious, I think, offering if the documentation coverage was not complete, or at least on first glance. But kind of ideally at that point, we would come to the stage where it covers the product, and then when we ship something or change something, updating the documentation becomes a standard procedure.
Maybe a technical question. Do you have currently an idea how you would approach writing the documentation? Would it be part of the website or some specialized software?
Well, my first pick is the same thing we're using to build the website, Astro. There is a very kind of sexy documentation template that they've built, which solves all the basically, like, it would be similar to their own docs in terms of structure and any other doc documentation or manual system, where you have a navigation with categories on the left-hand side. You have a search, and you might even have support for different translations, and I don't know what is, dark mode, light mode. I was only wondering if I want to make my life difficult by bundling it inside the website, like repository and the whole system, so that, but the only benefit would be, instead of like docs.operately.com, it would be operately.com/help, and it would be like just more in like fully part of the website, like experience. I was partly inspired by, I think it's called PostHog. PostHog has they use something similar to Astro, called Gatsby. Anyway, when you go to like every section on the website, it's all the same website, right? And you never, these are the docs, and it's never like you went to some other.
I can only see the Astro docs, just to jump in.
Oh, sorry. Let me. I forgot to click. Okay, so this is their website, and what I like. So this is a developer product. It's kind of nerdy, but I like the feeling of like going to different sections. For example, this would be the help section, and there's never a feeling like you went to some other place. which is totally different. It's all kind of one home. I think it makes implementation and maintenance a bit more maybe challenging, but we'll see. It is not. It will not be a disaster at all if it were simply on a subdomain and looking like this, and no problem.
I would maybe go with one website. I mean, even maintenance wise, whenever I split something, 1 or 2 years down the line, I always regret it. Because then always a question pops up like, was it actually so hard to keep everything in one repository? Or is it, my fear of, I don't want to align with everything else that is already built. I want to start from scratch. But then you need to maintain 2 websites to be visually similar, to behave similarly. I wouldn't recommend it unless we are forced to maintain more than one thing.
Yeah, I would like to definitely try that, and only if there is like some surreal amount of hurdles, then maybe abandon. But I like that approach. Down the line, it's yeah. I was gonna say that there are nice little maybe bonuses, like if you could have like a very website, like the entire brand, everything that the brand made could be covered by a single, let's say, search box on the website. I think that's useful. Anyway.
So the reason why I asked about are you using a website or a specialized tool is I remember from the past that search was one of the things that, everything else was easy to implement, but search was somehow always some ugly addition to the system.
Yeah.
So is Astra good with this, or?
Well, they do a good job from what I remember, in helping you implement it. Let me see. I cannot find. Yeah, I don't want to waste time looking for like some guide that they have, but there are a couple of options that are like ready-made recipes that some include an external service, but that doesn't feel like an alien is part of your asset. And I think there's even some fully self-contained options. So we'll be good there. I think there has been progress compared to I think previously we used for other purposes, but you used those maybe traditional static websites. Or maybe the first batch of documentation building tools were very similar to static website builders. And so they were just like, okay, you're on your own when it comes to search. But this is not, the bar has been raised generally in this area. So we'll have some help, some examples that we can just copy. Yeah.
One more area that is in the back of my mind, I never really answered it, is, so all of this is great for SaaS, where the documentation is part of the website. I don't have an answer for self-hosted currently. Maybe we can. I'm not saying that we should answer it right now, but like if you get the self-hosted product version, 1.5, you would like to have documentation 1.5 of that application, probably somehow bundled together.
Yeah, that's a good point. I completely overlooked that aspect. Let's put a note, because for example, that might even influence the choice of the let's say backend, because as far as I know, Astro, that like having like totally like not duplicate, but different sets of pages for each version. So not just per language, but also per version, like maintained. I think that goes beyond these, like what Astro would support us with, and we would have to sort of shop for a very documentation focused solution.
One more point that I didn't think through, but it could be a question later, is if you want to have links in the application that leads to documentation, sometimes you want to have that. We should be careful where it is actually leading, because, okay, for the SaaS version, it will always lead to the latest. But for not SaaS versions, it should behave differently. I'm not even sure how it should behave.
Yeah.
On this last point, maybe we don't even want to have links in the product that lead to documentation. I'm not super sure about that, but if we want, then that is a decision that should be made earlier, because down the line it will become more and more expensive to answer.
You mean like like you are on a screen about, I don't know,
permissions, or
yeah, you're looking at the permissions selection widget, and there's a micro sized tip which is like read more about permission access management, that leads to the specific page in documentation. Yeah, I think I think in practice we will not. It's not possible to provide an excellent user experience. Well, I should probably maybe be more careful with what I say, but it seems very hard to provide For both deployment options, I was gonna say, if it would really be helpful to have a link to a documentation page within the application, and because it's too complex to, and then for some reason we decide not to do it because, I don't know, it's too complex, I would still prefer to have like to have that link, but like in the code, in the conditioned with like, if this is a SaaS, then show. And people who are using self-hosted, they can just look it up. I mean, the self-hosted release might I think that like maintaining on your website like indefinitely documentation for all previous versions is something that is really a necessity for like developer programming libraries and infrastructure that other people build on. But for a business application, I think, if our approach should be closer to, the standards of good old desktop software that, people would buy in a box in the 90s, which is you buy the software on a CD or, or floppy disks, and the help is included. You don't go online to access help. The help is in there. So if we could find a way to basically just package, to sort of export the documentation website, or part of the website that's documentation, in as part of the self-hosted release, that would be, I think, pretty good.
Yeah, I think all of these questions that I asked were somehow in my mind subtly leading to that. But I didn't want to say it outright because other solutions might be possible. To be honest, I'm not even a super big fan of links in the application that leads to documentation. The only place where I see those things really useful if you are doing something very technical. In an application like Operately, if you need additional context, I would maybe even bake it into the application with tooltips, special pages.
Yeah, I agree. I believe that if we should be guided by the principle, like if a manual is needed, we failed in the design. By needed, I mean like to even understand the point of something. So definitely, yeah. I would also prefer the approach of being more verbose in the in-app copy, the tips.
That's also, let's say, my inner struggle with some other tools. For example, I never had to look up the documentation of Whimsical, this board that you are showing. I just used it. It was natural. But when I switched to Notion, then, after a week, you just need to open the documentation. I have no idea how to do that.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem of Notion, because
yeah, it's hard to move past a beginner stage on your own.
let's go to the next topic. I think we have covered this.
Yeah, so my next piece is we call it customer success. So we mentioned this on the last session. We need a help menu in the app, and one of the options will be to contact us for support. So we need that channel set up. I think one email is a must. We don't have to have those after 3 days, after 7 days things yet. But one welcome email with key information is necessary. And we need a way to understand how far users have gone, so that we can help them better and improve the product. So I think the most if we would have tomorrow people coming in every day, I would basically start my day by opening this admin organizations screen with a table of accounts, and which summarizes how many team members the organization has, goals and projects. Zeros would be red, non-zeros green, and our ideal state is as much green as possible. So
It's probably the latest activity.
yeah, latest activity, timestamp of that. And then later, this becomes something that we continuously develop. Based on the needs, but I forgot to include it here. And yeah, I mean, that's as far as I've gone. Why is this? Yeah, I don't know if you had anything else, but I think these are. That's it. There are two things on kind of general administration operations that I had in mind. Our domain, I don't even know what it means, but there is a hosted zone that is not on Cloudflare, and yeah, I just want to move it, park it in Cloudflare before we get more traffic. And set up some web analytics. We currently do have some in we use the Cloudflare's free plan still, and it only provides very high level aggregate numbers. There's no way to see number of visits on certain pages and things like that. So there are a few options as usual. One is even offered on the introductory paid plan of Cloudflare, but there are also other options. Some are even open source. Unfortunately, it's not so like Google Analytics used to be the standard, but Google at some point recently basically killed analytics, launched a whole new version, deleted everybody's historical data, and the new version is very difficult to use and understand. I've used it a bit earlier with Semaphore, and it's really, to even get a basic answer, like, okay, how much traffic does my XYZ pricing page has? It's like, dude, you need a tutorial and 5 clicks to get there. So
that is now the typical Google product. I mean, even on the developer front, marketing front, they are underperforming drastically.
Yeah. So sad. But yeah, I mean, we need competition in all areas. So I hope I doubt, but we'll see that they recover. Anyway, analytics will cost like $10, whatever we end up choosing. That's the state of that space. I'm not aware of anything else. I don't know if you are.
You mean the administration part?
Yeah.
Well, one thing I shared with you was SRE work. Would that fall into this category, or is it a separate?
I think yes. I would park it here.
So some of the basics are
exceptions. I mean, we don't have
exception tracking. We probably need to find something better than Sentry. It is not really working for us.
It's not working for the Elixir backend or
Front-end.
Front-end.
I mean, for either of those things, it is. I would somehow assume that there are good tools around this where you don't need to, set up various weird things just to get it working. So I would maybe go out and look, maybe shop for something better than Sentry. I know that there is AppSignal. AppSignal is built with Elixir, so I think for them it's a first-class citizen. I mean, they are built with React and Elixir. I assume that they know how to support Elixir and React if they are written in it.
Yeah, AppSignal, like we're kind of friends with them from Semaphore times. They're a long time customer, and yeah, definitely worth. We should check them out. I don't know if Raygun is also an option.
Maybe.
Yeah, we'll see.
There are those tools that are not really exception tracking, but what was
monitoring?
New Relic stuff. I don't know what is the category name.
APM, yeah.
APMs. That would also be great. But yeah, I didn't see good tools in that area for a long time.
No, APM was like became too small of a problem space and then everybody, I guess that was my observation. I don't know if it's correct, actually. It seems like everybody started bundling more and more into what were originally APM products, and now it's kind of hard to find actually a product that's focused on solving APM really well. At some point.
on the left side, where we probably need to do it right now, is some basic uptime monitoring. Combined with, I'm fine with even crude alerts that it's not alive. And one more thing is maybe that's on the right side, but the high availability setup for the SaaS launch is something that we need.
Yeah, just have a regional fallbacks, Earth, Moon, Mars.
Yeah. This is mapping to probably like having multiple instances, having good database backups, configure delivery to support all of that. We will need, in one specific area, we need usage metrics. And that is, currently the only infinitely growing resource that we have is the object storage. You would call that, it's like a saturation matrix for various components. Storage and latency, probably. Storage, latency, and memory. Those are the typical ones.
Well, I mean, I also think we need visibility into like, okay, how much. I don't know if it's at this stage, but maybe it's on the third stage. But like, you don't want somebody to like save 5 terabytes of stuff on their account and that we have no idea.
Maybe put that into the admin category first. I mean, the admin in a sense of customer success admin. Storage will be part of our pricing in some way or another.
Mm.
So it makes sense to be there because we will probably never push you really to buy more storage. But if you need more storage, for example, more than 500 megabytes or terabytes, like we can only support you if you pay us a higher price.
Yeah, that's fairly common, like a very kind of generous offering that covers vast majority of people, and then but have a limit in place so that those who are outliers are basically that at least our costs are compensated. So fair game.
On this side of customer success and let's say SRI, there is a thing which is like feature management. We already need this. My cat is meowing, but I don't know where.
I don't hear it.
So we need some system around that. Probably in this middle category. Because if we want to ship new things without interfering with people's lives, we need this.
So you mean like we need ability to enable or disable new features to certain people?
Yes. Simple thing, but all of these things on their own are simple.
Yeah.
But it needs to be written down.
Okay.
Now this is on the application front, and that is, but we haven't touched it. That we don't have a sign-up flow, but I see that you put it. Users can create an account either way. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I wrote this, like no paper cuts on what first-time users experience during the first 30 minutes. I haven't really looked into like how many there are, but it is something that's just to be mindful of. Like usually it's low-hanging fruit, and we want to minimize that. So
Around this, to maintain quality, I think that the only reasonable way is to have, periodic procedure where one would sign up. I don't want to say QA per se, but some QA practices that are repeated to assure that everything is working great.
Yeah, I think absolutely agree. Products start dying when the CEO stops creating a new account. So I'm not aware of anything else in this area. I did write here something about commercial self-hosted. I don't think it's something to. Well, I think one thing to maybe touch on is the beacon.
What is that?
Well, it's pretty, like somebody runs your self-hosted product, and it's pretty much a norm to have like a beacon that emits a signal to us, like somebody and at such and such IP address is using the product. As far as I know, it doesn't go much further than that in terms of data. But it is a norm, as far as I know, that it is absolutely fair game that you are aware that somebody's using, as a vendor, that somebody's using the self-hosted.
Now that you mention it, it completely is. And when I was setting up the self-hosted installation, I looked into some practices around some tools, and the standard is it's enabled by default, but you can disable it with a feature, with a flag that, okay, I don't want to send anything.
Yeah, I mean, if you are, it's okay. We can maybe park it here, and we'll see. I mean, what you describe is actually maps to a bigger piece, which is some kind of a control plane for people running self-hosted.
Yeah. And upgrade procedure for self-hosted.
Oh yes.
I'm thinking about two things at once. One is, did we forget something in the app part? And the broader question, did we forget, a segment to cover?
Yeah, well, we did add a few more sticky notes here during our session, so I think we're pretty good. I think further discoveries can be. I wouldn't really even spend much more time like thinking. I would just like start doing stuff, and then whenever we discover something, we can decide when to schedule it.
I think the next question is, I think we have enough material. I would like to have let's say a specific date where we meet the next time. And what would we have by then?
Well, I'm not sure, concerning that my kind of instinct is to start like executing stuff and projects. Are there any, actually, there are, for example, there's a question about how this documentation piece is going to be implemented. Are there any, what are any big other questions that might result into substantially different outcomes or workloads? I think not.
I don't think we have that, but now that you mention, there is definitely two categories of tickets here. One is like pure execution, but there are things that are like have a question in them, like I don't know, welcome emails, admin interface. I think on the top we have probably something in marketing that is definitely how to build a which platform to use for documentation, questions about pricing. I mean, other than these things that I said, everything is like super clear. Like open source page, it's a question about writing it, and I don't see that we will have any major question about it.
Yeah. Well, I think, for example, that all this is one project. This is one project. I mean, I would basically start from here, then go here. Or maybe vice versa. Maybe this is this might be first. I don't know. Maybe don't want to speculate now. I have a technical question, not maybe related to planning. Is like you mentioned in the previous, I think, session that we have an API for pretty much like an internal API, but that might, my understanding is it could become, I was going to say public API, but that's not my point. My point is like if we say we want, we talk to one prospect, another prospect, and so on, and they're all like heavily like based on using Slack. And we say, look, it would be really helpful to have a Slack integration for various, like materially practical reasons, like these people are living in Slack, but also for kind of the first impression, because if you have at least some integrations with the tools everybody use, it kind of signals readiness of the product. So my understanding is that things that are, excuse me, things that are so like different from the core application could be implemented as a standalone mini apps. Maybe not in the case of Slack, but it would be, because you mentioned last time, admin interface would probably be a separate entity.
I mean, even that is, I know where this question is coming from. I'm still not sure if that is like a good approach. primarily because once you separate stuff, then the very basic like integration testing becomes 10 times more expensive.
Yeah.
And if something is 10 times more expensive, then you have 10 times less incentive to do it. And the quality suffers.
We also have the responsibility of maintaining the simplicity of self-hosted experience.
Yeah.
Okay. Next topic.
One thing that now that you mentioned this, one thing that we didn't cover at all, and I think it deserves a box, at least on the end, and is billing, like a billing system.
Yeah, I was like, because I wrote here, but it's definitely not. It cannot be implied.
It's too big of a work.
Definitely, yeah, totally.
Why I'm bringing this up is probably this will be the first area where we are not open source.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the admin interface also is questionable if it should be open source. I mean, it could be, but the benefits of open source is usually, transparency, how the application works. You can contribute, you can self-host. You will not use the admin interface in any meaningful way.
Yeah, there's no upside for anybody. Neither the community nor us.
So it brings up a question, okay, how to handle those stuff that are not open source. If I go like very, very technical, like 10 times more technical than this meeting deserves, there is something called like umbrella applications in Phoenix. And those umbrella applications are like a mix of, like it's not a fully independent microservice, but it's not also the same application. Now going back to the reality where I'm not into microservice and technical details, it might open us a front where we can build our application like that, like a composable set of those umbrella applications.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure about the technical limitations of that, but I like the promise that it's like the middle ground between those two. That's exactly what I need. Easy to deploy and maintain, but also separate things.
I see.
Yeah.
I guess the way these umbrellas work is going to make or break the idea of, is going to influence the way these subsystems are separated. I mean, I hope that Mr. Valim had the foresight to make it work for pieces that are not in the same repository.
Lots of assumptions, but yeah. You don't need to continue with that, but I just put it out that there is a new thing that we haven't yet tried that might offer a technical advantage over anything else.
I mean, the one factor maybe to keep in mind is both the admin interface nor the billing system do not necessarily have to have the very highest, the very best performance latency. It's, if they end up being separated in a way that, I don't know, maybe involves some data traveling and latency, it's fine.
From my experience with those separate systems, like latency, separate deployments, all of these things are kind of answered in some way or another. The only thing that is like a big minus is testing. And we can say, okay, like testing is a small part, but no, it's actually a big part of building a good, coherent product.
I mean, for read-only admin stuff, I mean, not all admin stuff is read-only. You have to intervene sometimes and help people. But in billing, to have a bug that like affects people, that makes a wrong transaction or something, that's really, that sets you back like 6 months of goodwill and trust that you may have built with somebody. At least.
But maybe coming back to the original question, like the next steps are, so you would jump straight into the website or the documentation, depending on which is, the easier path to start it. I'm mapping out to approach like other stuff. I understand that those two are, we can just jump into it and do it.
I mean, in my opinion, there is no wrong order of doing these things because they are truly all must-haves. So, I think there is potentially, for example, like the only micro optimization might be, for example, for me, I would start with the website, but I would also start like fiddling with different ways of building documentation, because those are like different. I would work for like 5 hours writing and then 1 hour chilling and just messing around with, configuration. Those are different kind of types of work. So that's one way. Maybe two things could be bundled. Other than that, I really don't have an opinion. Like, I would just let you go with whatever you feel like going with first.
My point is, I want to put an urgency label on everything. I think it's fair to say that work on this kind of supersedes everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And ideally, if you would have a good first pass on random date, December 1st, that would be great. Is December 1st too late, too early? It's 2 weeks, I think.
I like the date. It's kind of 2 weeks from now, a bit more. Personally, I think it maps to. So I said like I would, for example, limit documentation work to a week, but then I would also limit this whole piece. I don't see it taking a full week, but I would just have that limit in place to not let it explode. So yes, I mean, I will be helping with some of these other, like for example, analytics and whatever. I do think I would like to, let's say, meet on not meet, but wake up on December 1st, and we may have some little breadcrumbs left, but most stuff solved.
I agree. That sounds like a very, very good time stamp.
Okay, great. Well, let's pause here. Let's take a break, and yeah, we can just start making putting this in motion.
Have a nice day.
You too. Thank you.